it was an interim run that went on a little bit longer than it should have done by keeping winning, and then the fan furor, the romance behind it, the sheer disassociation that came from Mourinho, and this is someone who doesn't care about us, we don't really care about him, that the romance kicked in and Solskjaer ended up getting the job that he could never turn down. It's the job of his lifetime. He had no business getting it, really, if you're being honest. And then he got it. And I think from there, I give him props, although I've said this to you before, G, on the last show. I do wonder if he is, and we'll get into it, but I do wonder if he is the person to take the club forward, or if he's just someone who can come in and press the reset button on what has gone since Ferguson. Because what I've seen him do that I've liked is identify a profile of player that he wants United to sign. Now, do I agree with the profile? I think it's a little bit Brexit FC, if I'm honest. It seems very British player orientated, or not. When Solskjaer arrived at United, it was kind of United signed most of the players either from the best British players or Nordic country players, Schmeichels, it was these kind of signings. And Solskjaer seems like he's gone back to going, well, that was the United way when I came in, so that's the identity. When I feel what you should do is take the philosophy and then project it into what that means today, rather than trying to recreate the past, if that makes sense. I wonder if Solskjaer's too literally trying to follow by some sort of Ferguson.
I don't know. He brought Bruno Fernandes in. He's not British.
Yeah, but again, United scouted him quite a lot. They'd actually threatened to sign Fernandes a couple of times, and I think he finally went over to watch him himself, didn't he? He went over himself, and he was like, "Yeah, he's pretty short." And also, they had some. He did it all based on personality as well. So he'd been told from a bunch of people to say he's a leader, and he was told by quite a few people, "No, Fernandes is actually quite nasty. He's quite, he's a definitely captain type." And Solskjaer was like, "I feel like he's got the right personality." That was a big part of it. But they've identified that Solskjaer's very keen in signing British talent, and definitely we think are the Manchester United type. So there is this bit of we've gone so far away from the identity now that we're now trying to do it almost word for word. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense? And I feel like maybe the truth is somewhere in the middle. But the point is, there is a philosophy. And that's something that I'm liking to see, that there is a sort of a target. We're not just scattergunning at like Sanchez, Di Maria, Falcao. I can name about 10.
I think Solskjaer doesn't come in with the expectation. I don't think anyone's expecting Solskjaer to do what people are expecting Mourinho to do. So when Mourinho has to prove himself year one with a trophy, he kind of has to buy developed players. He can't really bank on the youth coming through. And that's why everywhere he goes, he buys in players that are ready to play.
Ferguson did it with youth. I'll just throw that in.
Yeah, but again, Ferguson is
not just youth, but he brought youth through.
Yeah, and the thing with Solskjaer is that he's actually was he not under 23 manager for quite a while at Man U?
Reserve team coach. Yeah, he won. He was there for he came in 2008. He was the first team strike forward coach.
Yeah, forward coach.
During the team that won the Champions League in 2008, and then he got the reserve team coach. He had it for 2 years, but as a start of the third year, he then got the mould opportunity. He got offered the Norwegian job. The national team coach turned it down. He said didn't think it was right for him at that time, and then he ended up going to mould. But he won he won the different trophies at the time, weren't it? But he won the Manchester Senior Cup and the Lancashire Senior Cup against Liverpool and Bolton, I think it was. I remember, and he had a lot. He trained Pogba, Lingard, a lot of these players coming to that point.
He saw the youth then. He obviously worked with the youth then, so he obviously knows that the youth at Man U are good enough. Like he's been there. Like he's
and he was there. He was there as the Golden Five came for. He was actually in that team, wasn't he? He signed in '97, so he was part of that whole.
Yeah.
Beckham, Neville, Scholes, all that.
For him to then turn around and be like, actually, like him backing the youth, I think is a lot easier. And someone like Frank Lampard backing the youth is a lot easier because they know the club and they know that, okay, I can actually back this youth because I know that this is what they've been trained and this is how they live and actually they're usually better. See, if I was Southampton, you'd back your youth. You'd be like, okay, we're going to put youth players in. All these clubs, there's certain clubs that, but I think him back in the youth is a lot easier to do with less expectation and more knowledge than someone like Mourinho or Van Gaal back in the
Van
youth.
Gaal did back the youth, though. That's one thing he did very right. Very right. Rashford came through under him. Martial was signed under him, and obviously that's a signing, but still, who really knew about Martial apart from who watched him tear apart Arsenal for Monaco in that Champions League game? There was a lot of Borthwick Jackson. There was like a whole bunch that came through that suddenly got put into the first team. They didn't all stick, but Rashford, who knew that name really out with the people that were avidly watching the youth teams until Van Gaal put him in. He had a lot of injuries at the point, but he was like third or fourth choice youth striker. But Van Gaal had watched him and gone, "That's the one I'm going to put in," and he just flew out the traps, didn't he? So Van Gaal did well with it. So I've got to defend him on that one because Van Gaal.
No, that's fair. So the point really is with Mourinho. I know he gets a lot of stick, but there's not now, after seeing what Lampard's done, seeing what Ollie's done, teams are saying that, okay, maybe we can trust the youth. And then Klopp puts out youth teams in games that he doesn't really care about. Like, do you know what I mean? He puts out young players and all that kind of stuff. But the model is going that way. And obviously the blueprint of that model is Alex Ferguson when he did it with the youth, showed that it is possible, all that kind of stuff. But I think if we are going to see a Premier League that is promoting youth, then we see a lot more clubs saying that, okay, we're going to see youth players come through and we're going to back our youth players and we're going to make sure that the academy is doing well. People like Phil Foden, all that kind of stuff. Then I think Man U are probably ahead of the curve. Because, one, they've got it in their locker that we've done this before. And two, they've got a manager that actually worked with the youth at that very club. Knows the setup, knows the system. Okay, it's 10 years ago, 12 years ago, but he knows that setup, he knows that system, he knows what's going on behind the scenes, and he's been in it. He's not just seen it, he's been in it. So I think if we go down that route, then Ollie could be doing really well. But I think if we don't go down that route and clubs still buy in the ripened player and they still buy in people that are at the top of their games, then I think unless Ollie starts doing that, I don't think Ollie's a conversation that.
I don't think United have really been doing. I've really been doing that for a long time, buying in the top players since the days when everyone else only had money. United used to do that in the mid-90s because they could turn up and go, "I'll have you, and you, and who's going to fight?" Yeah. Everyone's rich. Everyone's got TV money. They're like, "Fuck off." Do you know what I mean? 80 million for Harry Maguire. You can do that. You're like, you want him? That's what it costs. We don't need to sell. So I think United really were kind of more. They would sign a Wayne Rooney, they would sign a Cristiano Ronaldo, they would sign a Ruud van Nistelrooy. They were players that were like, you were highly very, very top players, but they were still going up. They weren't going buying the superstar signing. Not since probably it was the last. Maybe Juan Veron didn't quite work. They did it then, but really, if you go back before then, it was more Keane. There were certain players they signed that were kind of already big established players before United bought them. But United were always about, we'll bring through our own youth players and we'll sign who we think are going to be the next big superstars and we'll pay big for them. But it was always kind of Rooney's one of the best examples of.
Yeah.
Obviously, it worked out, but you kind of knew Rooney was going to work. I mean, he was something. When he was first turned up, you were just like, my days, what a player this is. So, but I feel like where Solskjaer, I think with why Solskjaer has kind of worked to a degree is because he gets all that and he knows the history. I think the issue with Solskjaer is that I wonder if he's just a good enough coach or has good enough coaches. The whole thing feels inexperienced to me. Always learning on the job, and you have to understand. You have to give him that. You can't expect Solskjaer to be a seasoned coach when his main experience is being part of the United youth system. So he knows that. Like intricately, same way that Pep and Zidane did at Barca and Real Madrid. It's shown it can work. But his other examples are Mo, which is hard to judge, and then getting relegated with Cardiff, who were relegation fodder, but still, that's what the result was. So the only really thing you can base it on is how associated he is to the club. So you have to say, okay, he's learning. But then what you'd want is to have so much experience around him. And I feel like even the coaching team, like 2 out of the 3 are in the first coaching jobs as well, properly. Carrick and then Phelan. For me, the serious, the best coaches Ferguson had were McLaren and Kidd. Really, I don't really rate Phelan in quite the same category. So I don't even feel like he's got. And then above, there's no.
That's interesting because a lot of people
just say there's no director of football. So then the only other support you've got is Ed Woodward, who also came in same time as Moyes when Ferguson and Gill went. So the whole thing is inexperienced. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like Ollie isn't a good enough coach yet to be doing this shit on his own, which I kind of feel in a lot of senses he is. He might talk about team, but it's not a great team he has in terms of those around him in the coaching capacity. That's where I feel his biggest issue is. And I feel like
you say that about Phelan, because I remember when Ollie was when he was caretaker, and I think 19 games in charge, 14 won and 3 lost. Everybody that I was speaking to that wasn't really a Man U fan were like, oh yeah, it's not Ollie. Check who's in his back room. Check who's sitting next to him. It's the same guy that used to sit next to Alex Ferguson. Check it. It's Phelan. And everybody was giving that success, taking it away. Like, let's be honest, the run he had, the initial, I think, 7 games were easy games. The toughest game in his first 10 games, I think, was Tottenham, who he beat.
Yeah, that's when he won away at Tottenham, and then he won away at Arsenal in the Cup really soon afterwards, and then he won away at Chelsea in the Cup again really soon afterwards. And it was
that's when everybody started.
It happened between there up to the PSG game.
Yeah.
They were like, this is ridiculous because we've been so bad as well. But those are the games that triggered it to go, oh shit, like he's. I mean, Ollie's win ratio against the top 6 is still at 55%.
It's good.
He's really good at that.
A lot of people put that to Phelan, and for you to say that you don't rate Phelan.
No, I don't. I think he's a dinosaur.
Oh, okay.
I think he's a dinosaur. Yeah, I don't think he's helping Ollie at all. I think he's just saying yes, Ollie, yes, Ollie, yes, Ollie. I don't think he's helping. I really don't think Ollie's got anyone who's really able to lead a department. So I think Ollie's doing too much that he's not ready to do. And therefore, what he should be focusing on, which is his own fucking job, he's not experienced enough yet to be able to do 3 things at once. He needs to learn his craft. He's been asked to do it in the world's most public job interview, and he got it on. But for me, you can see that he's he realizes the scale of the job, and he's almost a little bit like, am I ready? Because when he went on that interim run, he was also playing a very forward-thinking 4-3-3. He hasn't played that since he got the job. He's played this more defensive 4-2-3-1. He hasn't played the 4-3-3 since. He's played a different style of football, and it's worked in the reason why he's got the record he has against the top 6 is because he's got pacey forwards who can hit you on the break on the counter, and he's very, very efficient at that. Where he's struggled is to be able to coach his way past a team that are playing a low block without having either Pogba or Bruno Fernandes, because he's actually done quite well when he's had one of them 2 available to play the number 10. But when he's not had Pogba, who's been injured all season, also one of the main reasons for his interim run, or since he brought Bruno Fernandes at the start of February, he's not been able to coach another solution other than, well, the number 10 will find the pass and we'll just make sure we're really quick and dangerous around it. He hasn't been able to coach his way out of that. I feel like a Pep or a Klopp will coach their way out of that. I mean, Klopp's solution was to make the fullbacks like a number 10. Do you know what I mean? You figure out different ways of doing it, and I feel Ollie's he's still a bit dependent on, he has to have this number 10 type player. We'll see what he does now. Now he's got Pogba and Bruno Fernandes, if there's a way to merge them into the same team so that we're not so hindered by creativity by this one player. Because what he has got is a dangerous forward line, which makes us so good on the counter-attack. But it reminds me a little bit, guys, it's with G. I'm going to say this to you and you'll remember it as well. But you look at Liverpool a couple of years ago. The transition you've made this last 2 years is that you've learned how to beat the rest of the teams. Liverpool was also incredibly good on the counter-attack, and a lot of it was based on that forward line. And any team that attacked you got blitzed. But utterly, that's why you kept blitzing City. We've blitzed City now 4 out of the last 5 games. It's always kind of this similarities to it. Of case of going, if you come at us and leave a space, we're lethal. If you want to come do that, you come to Old Trafford and do that, you're an idiot. Just park the bus. We haven't got a clue. Do that, we haven't got an answer to it. Liverpool almost had this same thing, but when Liverpool had to do was go, well, how do we still have that to have a good score against the top six, but now start beating everyone else? Because Liverpool was dropping stupid points against teams they should be beating, but then smashing City. And we're the same kind of place now, and I feel like, okay, Ollie now has to solve the conundrum of going, but what if you can't use the counter-attack? How do you score first and invite the team on so that you can beat them 4-5-6 on that counter, use that pace that you have? Or whatever team doesn't leave its low block, how do you break it down? And I feel like maybe the answer is going to be in Pogba and Fernandes combination, and he's going to try stuff there. But the point is, can he coach solutions now? And I just feel like Ollie isn't a good enough coach yet that if he has all his best tools taken off him, he can coach his way out of it. I don't think he's there. So he either needs to learn to do that, or he needs to bring in a top coach, like the fact that Lampard has Jody Morris, like the one I rate very, very highly. But he needs somebody like that goes, well, I'll get that point across, and all you have to do is man manage. Because I reckon Ollie's good at man management. I think he's someone as well that the players really, really like.
Yeah.
But you wonder if they respect him the same way. But I feel like they do. I feel like Ollie does. I think Ollie is a nice guy on camera, but there is a lot of people that say he's kind of ruthless behind the scenes. Like
you've seen him mouthing it. I've seen him, like, there's a clip I saw like where he's mouthing. I can't remember who it was to, but he's like, do that one more time and you're off. He's like,
there's a lot of people that say he's really, really ruthless. You said that's a forward. They call him the smile. His nickname was a smiling assassin, do you remember? Or the babyface assassin, wasn't it? And he's like, he's smiling, but he's really ruthless. Like, but you sat watching, you're going, well, I don't think he is. And these players here that are still getting a game that shouldn't be. But then if you look at what he's done, he's jettisoned quite a few out. No one else was getting rid of. I mean, it took him 2 weeks to get rid of Fellaini. As soon as the window opened, he was like, out. You're not a Man United player. And again, everyone else is kind of going, do you know what? We met him, we like him, he's a nice guy, he does a good job. And every one of the coaches after Moyes kept him.
Lingard's still there, though.
What's that?
Lingard's still there, though.
We'll come back to Lingard, right? But Fellaini, out. Who else?
Phil Jones is still there.
Phil Jones, but that's because we can't get rid of him, apparently. You don't see him in the first team very often, do you? Like, he's gone, he's been quite, even if he hasn't played them, he's been like, if he hasn't sold them, they're not playing, or he's loaned them out. He's got rid of Sanchez out of the team. Sanchez has been a poison since he arrived. Like, just not at all into it. It just is a mercenary. There's been a lot of that that's gone on, and he's just gone. If you look at the United team now, you look at the players that are playing week in, week out, you're like, well, do you know what? Character-wise, I can identify with them. It feels like a Man United team. Is it good enough yet? It needs to improve, but it's got the basis that's something I can buy into. I feel like I want to see us be more forward-thinking. I think Pogba and Fernandes playing in the same team with Rashford, Martial, and a top right-sided player, and we've got something to really fucking get excited about because we've got really, really good forward-thinking flair players, and we've got some really good characters in there.
Have you got anyone that will score 20, 25 goals a season for you, though?
Yeah, I think Martial will. All day long. I will happily put my hat in the ring and bet any one of you that if he goes through a season playing as a number 9 rather than what Mourinho did to him, because Mourinho fucked him up. When Van Gaal signed him, he was electric as a number 9. And Mourinho came in the very next season, took his number off him, stuck him out on the left, and that was it. Like, if you look at Martial scored like 19 goals this season now, I think. Or it's at least 17. He doesn't take penalties. That's Rashford who takes them. And he's through the middle, and he's played a lot of games without a number 10 behind him. And if you looked, them to have fed off each other a lot, Rashford and Martial. They've really struggled. They've both had terrible runs this season when the other one's not been playing, because then there's literally nothing to feed off. But Martial, for me, is a number 9. His hold-up plays a lot better than people give him credit for. His first touch, his movements. It's because he doesn't go tearing around the pitch like Rashford does. People think he's lazy. Like, British mentality on football is backwards sometimes. And if you're not running around like an headless chicken, then you're not working hard. Martial's an intelligent player. He's a flair player. He chooses the moments to affect games. And he's actually incredibly efficient in front of goal. So I'm a big Martial fan. I actually rate him as possibly the out-and-out most naturally gifted player at the club between him and Pogba for just out-and-out talent. I think Martial next season if he's able to keep the number 9 shirt, we don't try and sign a Harry Kane or somebody. Martial is playing through the middle. Rashford, who's definitely better off the left because he can't play with his back to goal. And if we sign a top right-sided player and go with that, I think Martial bags 20 league goals, hands down, provided he's not injured. No concerns. That's my opinion on him. I think he's class.
So you would back him in that if the club turned around and said we're going to buy a number 9, that's a big name, you'd still back Martial?
No, I'd spend it elsewhere. I'd spend it on the right of attack, which has been our problem for 5 years. Everyone knows my first choice is Sancho, but a top right-sided forward, Martial through the middle, Rashford off the left where he's best, a top CDM so that we can play Pogba and Bruno, and have like the way that City do with Silva and De Bruyne, but they have Fernandinho. We don't have a Fernandinho, so somebody who can do that job, and then possibly another defender, whether it's be a top centre back.
You're one of very few people, fans, especially Man U fans, that are actually placing Pogba in the team.
Nah, I'd say it's quite 50-50, but I hear where you're coming from because the ones who are Pogba out are definitely the most vocal. We covered the Paul Pogba agenda last time. I'm certain there is one. I felt that the whole time. I think Pogba makes that team better all day long. The issue is people have issues with his off-the-field personality. They have issues with his agent. Didn't stop us trying to sign Haaland, though, did it? So, do you know what I mean? Like, they have issues with his agent. They also have it. I just think there's an anti-Pogba thing, and I don't know if it.
Do you think, talking about managers again, do you think Solskjaer is the right guy to get the best out of Pogba?
Oli never has a bad word to say about him. Oli loves him. I feel like Oli wants to keep him. The club want to keep him. I think Pogba has a right to question everything he's seen because everything he's seen is not what was on the ticket. He was promised. He should have gone to Real Madrid probably for his own good. He went to United. He was promised that they were going to build this team around him. Name one world-class player we signed since Pogba.
Nothing.
Probably the first one is maybe Bruno Fernandes. He's going to be possibly.
But you've got to be.
Name one. Zlatan. We bought Zlatan, but let's be honest, it was Zlatan towards the end, and he had a good year. Then he got injured. But name one Pogba-like signing that we made. There's one, him. And when we signed him, I thought it was a statement. I was so excited because I'd watched him come through the youth team, and I was gutted when he left. When we brought him back, I was like, it's a statement signing because if we're signing him, we must be signing others to convince him to not go to Real Madrid because they've been trying to sign him his whole career since he went to Juve. If you watch Pogba in Juve, he was absolutely fucking outstanding. I watch a lot of Italian football, and Pogba was just incredible for them. And he's a World Cup winner for France. But if you look at the United teams he's played in, shit. And he's been sold a dream, and he's been lied to. And now, I think Oli is trying to convince him that this time it's different. This time we're not going to cheat on you. This time it's for real, right? And he's going to have to buy into that. And signing Fernandes, I think, feeds that. If we want to sign somebody like a Sancho, I think he might start to then go, well, this is why I came.
Yeah.
This is what I came for. Because he's not going to want to leave and be looked at as a failure here. Even if he goes on to an elsewhere, I think there is an ego there, like all great players have, and he's going to be like, it'll be always on his record. I think he'd want to win something substantial before he left. But then if you win something substantial, you might want to stay.
Yeah.
You don't know. But I feel like Pogba is just made the scapegoat for so much that's wrong at United. And a lot of it's Mourinho's fault, that virus chat. When Mourinho was the virus, and thank fuck he's out. And Spurs can have it.
So the thing with... Okay, so Frank Lampard touched on this, where he put a lot of his younger players, when he started working with the youth, they had transfer ban and he had to work with the youth. Mm-hmm. And he said that I'm going to put a lot of these players through communication lessons. Like I'm going to give them communication classes and hire in communicators because that age group of players, they don't have conversations. Like you'd be able to know, growing up, if we had a mate down the road, we'd either go to his house and speak to him or pick up the phone and speak to him. I wasn't texting my mates. Like, I wasn't, we weren't. And the players outside, older or whatever, they have that communication where they can go and talk to someone. They can go and thrash out, even if it's a negative situation, pick up the phone and be like, hey man, like, what's going on with this? Whereas this generation, you send a message, you Facebook message, you tweet.
You can be a keyboard warrior, essentially.
Correct.
Yeah, you deal with it and not have to deal with the consequences of having to speak to someone face to face and go, maybe I need to find a different way of dealing with this. So it's like, no, it's fine, because I'm in the safety of my own confines in the digital sphere. So I get that, yeah.
And then, so Frank's like, these players, if they have issues, they don't know how to communicate these issues with me. They just don't know how to. And I think that some of the older managers, someone like Mourinho and Pogba having an issue, I don't think the communication was as great. Where Pogba's making Instagram videos, doing a dance with Jesse Lingard, and that's the way he's communicating with his fans as opposed to going signing autographs or whatever. Like Mourinho is like, right, how do I communicate with this guy? Mourinho's trying to do it the old school way. Pogba isn't maybe trying to do it the old school way.
I'd still say as well that Pogba, I feel like is quite. I think he's someone that is also quite personable, and I think you could. I think Mourinho's issue was the fact that Pogba's communicating his own narrative, and Mourinho wants everybody on the one narrative. But Pogba's got his own fan base. He's got, especially like the social media thing. You see Roy Keane. You mentioned that before, G, about Roy Keane's rant about. I think they struggle with it because it feels like you're not conforming. It feels like you're almost your own brand. Guess what? You are. That's what's changed.
That's why you bought him. He's a commercial asset. He is a big commercial asset. So the club need him. But my question is that is it right for Pogba to play under Aali? Like, do you think someone like a Pogba can respect someone like an Aali? And we touched on it earlier where Aali probably is quite respected at Man U. He's got a very he's got a special place at Man U.
And he was his coach at youth level as well.
Well, yeah, so maybe he is the right manager for him. Maybe he is. But
it's a tough one, right? It's a tough one, right? Because then by that sense, could Ryan Giggs do it? Could anyone do it? Do you know, okay. But the point is, Ollie's got the job. It's his to lose. And I feel like he's learning on the job. But he has to improve. He can't just have this mentality of going, well, you know, there's not an expectation. There's not an expectation. Can't speak today. An expectancy on it. He has to deliver trophies. Like, he's not getting away from that. And the point, you have to look at it and go, is this United team moving in that direction? I feel like there's been lots of rays of hope, and then there's been lots of kind of going, this isn't going anywhere. And that's just why I still say that. Look, I think he's going to be here next season, and I think that's going to determine it. I think he should be. I'm still kind of on the fence. I still wonder if he's the guy. This is what I said to G last time. If he's the guy that comes in and resets what's gone on before, re-steadies the ship, and then hands the keys on to somebody who can take it into, like somebody like a Poch, who can take a template to work with of a good nucleus of players, of the right sort of characters, people that want to actually be there, that are there for reasons, not just I'm here for a payday, because United are doing that at the moment. You know, they want to be here and they want to win, and then give that to somebody who can go, right, the ingredients are now there, you can kick on, rather than having Poch come in on the back of Mourinho and going, got all the wrong ingredients, 3 different chefs, good luck. And now they can go, Ollie's actually got rid of a lot of that. If Ollie was to walk now, I think in a couple of years' time, we'd look back and go, what a fucking amazing job you did for us. Like that you reset the whole thing. I wonder if he's going to be there and try and become the guy that takes it on, and he'll lose the credit for what he did here. Because I feel it's an important interruption to what was becoming scheduled narrative of just not what this club is meant to be. And I think Ollie has come and done that. So I don't know if he's the person to take it forward, but I think he's earned the chance from where things were in the last, because he was unbeaten in the last 11 games, won 9. There was something starting to happen. When he's had Pogba or Fernandes, it's looked a lot better. I think he's earned the right to have this season to see, but is it the right thing? It's probably the right thing to do, but is it actually the long-term the right thing? That's still to be, in my opinion, I'm still not sure is what I'm saying. I feel like Poch could be the next right person to come through, or somebody like him who is ready to, who has shown how good a coach they are, that now needs to take on a huge club and win trophies. I don't know if Ollie is that guy, purely because he's no track record to prove it. That's the issue, right? He's not. You can only really base him off what he did as the youth coach, which was brilliant. He was a brilliant reserve team coach. But that's not the same world, is it? But then the argument for him, Pep and Zidane hadn't proven it either, and they got the chance at Real Madrid and Barcelona. They're now two absolute legend coaches of those clubs. So it can be done, but just because Pep and Zidane managed it doesn't mean Solskjaer's going to manage it.